Alright, so continuing on with the same worksheet, we're going to work on this bottom type of question where now we just need to take those quantities and put them on the graph. So it's just one more step, it's just writing them down onto this graph so that we're labeling it so that we can understand the image of the graph. So directions. Label the axes of each graph with the independent and dependent quantities and the appropriate unit of measure. Let's read the question. Number 7. You have your eye on an upgraded smartphone. However, you currently do not have the money to purchase it. Your cousin will provide the funding as long as you pay him back with interest. He tells you that you only need to pay $1 interest initially, and then the interest will double each week after that. You consider his offer and wonder if this is really a good deal. Alright, let's take a look and see if we can find the units so that we can discover what our quantities are. So I see attached to this first number, I see $1. That's the only number I see, but what other units can we see? $1 interest initially, and then the interest will double each week. Week is a measure of time. So we're going to use weeks and dollars as our units. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at labeling our quantities. So what do you think weeks describes? Week is a measure of time, and time is always independent or dependent? Time is always independent. So time and our units, weeks. That leaves us with the other unit, which is dollars. Dollars measures what? It says $1 in interest initially. So interest. It's okay if you thought money. Dollars does describe money, but specifically this money is interest. Interest is what you have to pay the person that you borrowed money from. So it's more specific if you say interest. Okay, so we have labeled our independent, we have identified our independent and dependent quantities, and now we have to label them. So where do they go? So I want you to remember that always this x-axis, which I'm going to highlight in purple, the one that goes horizontally like this way, that axis is always going to be your independent quantity. So that means we're going to be writing our time in weeks on that axis. That's why I put it all in the same color, okay? So all the purple stuff goes together. That's why next to this purple X, I'm going to write time in weeks. So the independent quantity always goes with the x-axis. That leaves our y-axis to be labeled with our dependent quantity, which is interest in dollars. So let's go to label it. Okay, so see there's only one more step that we're doing here that we didn't do before. It's putting the independent over here. Oops, I can't spell. Independent. And putting the dependent over here. Okay, so that's the only extra step we have to do. Let's try out number 8. Number 8, I guess I'll leave it like this so you guys can see. Jill is a drum major for the Altadena High School Marching Band. For the finale of the halftime performance, Jill tosses her baton in the air so it reaches a maximum height of 22 feet. This gives her 2 seconds to twirl around twice and catch the baton when it comes back down. Alright, let's take a look at what units are attached to our numbers. I see 22. 22 what? 22 feet. I see 2 what? 2 seconds. Alright, so I want you to, I'm going to pause this video in class. I want you to think about what do those feet and seconds represent? Are those your independent or dependent quantities? And then once you figure that out, put them on your graph and we'll see in just a moment if you got them right. So pause the video. Alright, so now we're unpaused and we're going to figure out if you got it right. So if you got it wrong, no worries. Remember, learning is a process. I don't expect you to get it right every single time the first time you try. You're gonna struggle sometimes, and that's okay. Remember that that means you're being challenged, and that means that your brain will grow big, like literally grow bigger, just like your muscle will grow bigger when you lift a bigger weight, okay? So let's start with seconds. Seconds is a measure of time. Okay, and time is always independent. And then we have feet. Feet is a measure of the height. Okay, and now let's do our labeling. Oops. Highlighter. Remember, your x-axis is always your independent quantity, which is time in seconds. And then your y-axis is always your dependent quantity, which in this case is height in feet. Oops. Okay, so if you didn't get it right, don't worry, just correct it, is no big deal, all right? And so for the rest of the problems, I want you to work on that on your own, and remember, it's your responsibility to let me know if you have any questions. Oops.